Welcome to the Holistic Equine Academy of Lymphedema. I'm Teresa Mueller, and today is a very special evening, Tuesday, August 4th. And I have here three equine lymphatic therapists here to talk about their experience as an equine lymphatic therapist and what them brought into the business and what they really want to offer you. And this is really an exciting time because I'm very, very excited about the potential and what we can do. And I'm going to get started. So, what I'd like to do is introduce everybody. Lorna is right there. Say hi, Lorna.
Hello.
She's She's really been special and to me because she's been with me for the longest time, and she's the first person who received status as a special and lymphatic therapist. So I'm very, very proud of that. And so that's one step above the basic professional curriculum. So anyway, she has had a remarkable journey. Not long ago relocated from Washington to Arkansas and has to start business all over again, and that is a very undaunting task. It's exhausting, exhausting.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You've got different cultural changes. You have different socioeconomic issues and all those kinds of things, and it could really just really throw you off. But one of the best things I love about Laura is her intent. When she goes and works on a horse, I've seen her in class. I've seen her on the videos. She has the most beautiful patience and slow rhythm. She was a former ballerina, so now I know why she's got rhythm. I have no rhythm. I wasn't born with any rhythm. I was born with two left feet. I went to kindergarten with two left. I came home one day from kindergarten. My mother said, "What happened?" I came home with two left boots. So, so I didn't approve, folks. I'm sorry. I gotta, can I tell you? So Lorna has intent, and I think let me just share this really quick. So I still do human massage. Somebody referred a friend of theirs to me, and when he got done, he says, "That's the best massage I ever had. No one ever gave me a massage like that." And every time I see her, he tells her, "When you see Teresa, you tell her." And I'm like, every time she sees me, tells me the same thing. I said, "You know what?" I said to her, I said, "You know what, Kathy? Here's the deal. You know what the difference is? It's intent." Somebody can go in and put their hands on it and go through the motions. And I think that's why there's so much burnout. I don't know what these people thinking when they get into massage. I saw it a lot in the human side as well as on the equine side. When you're intent and you're focused, that time, that hour, or that 90 minutes is gone, right? Because that's intent. That's what Lorna brings to the table. So now we have Tracy. Tracy's really unusual. She's the owner of the Rocky Mountain School of Acupuncture and Massage up in Sedalia, Colorado, just south of Denver. I believe it's south, right, Tracy?
Yes. Yeah,
It
just
is.
out. Hmm.
And she's been help sponsoring our classes here for MLD and been really, really supportive. But she's quite unusual because she's a master herbalist, and I give my hat off to her. Next week, she's going to be on the owner side of the house where you have the owners. But let me tell you who Tracy is. This is one woman with a heart that doesn't quit. And let me tell you why. She takes these horses in that nobody wants. Everybody said they need to go to slaughter. I'm telling you, the worst of the worst. And she keeps them. She sucks every penny, every ounce of energy caring for these animals. And I know it takes a toll on her. I see it sometimes. She's tired. I know the drill because I got it here myself with my husband. So she's an amazing individual. What she brings to the table is that level of sensitivity about the horse and the communication and the passion that she carries for caring for these horses. You just heard her earlier, if you were on the call, that one of her horses has a coffin bone infection. Another one has a touch of laminitis. So it's always something. Not to mention the vet bills. And I can tell you, they run up quick. Right, Tracy?
Yes, I'm calling it a $7,000 splinter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I get that. I know that. So, and she's always on Facebook trying to rescue somebody, place somebody. Very few people
True.
take that kind of energy to do that, not only with the horses, with the dogs.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa.
Yes.
Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, I would, it would be an insult not to have you, Tracy. You bring so much insight, so much insight.
Thanks.
And so now we have Trish. Trish is really unusual. She's going to give her a little, she lives down in Maryland and she deals with a lot of hunter jumper folks. Am I right?
Massage predominantly right now, but yes, hunter jumper,
Humper
former.
jumper, the dressage, the big guys.
Mm.
And this is what really makes Trish so special. She's adorable. I'll get a text message like at, 6 o'clock in the morning or something. Because I'm up early like she is. Oh, you have to tell you what happened with this horse and this happened and that. And it's so wonderful because I love talking to her because she gives me insights that she's going to share her journey that's going to put you on the queue. Because you want to know what she's seeing. You may not see it. So this is why I think that it all really comes together because everybody brings something to the table. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, what we're going to do, I'm going to ask a set of questions, one question for each person. And we've got five. And then we're going to open it up to the people. If you want to have a question, just send it in the chat. And when we go to the next question, well, if there's any chat or questions for that particular question, we'll answer it then. Sounds fair enough? Lorna, so what brought you to heal on the lymphatic therapy?
So after I started my business in 2018 in Washington, there's a conference at NEBCAM, had a conference out there, and Teresa was one of the presenters, and I went to her presentation on the lymph system, and it was just fascinating, and I love the deep science actually behind it, because this is something that has been well, say it's something that you can see, you can actually physically do and see a difference in the horse. And so I started talking to her, and I did some of the classes, and then she had the 2-day class out in Wyoming, and went out there and did the basic MLD course, and started using it right away in my practice. And I saw the difference it can make in the horses, especially for the relaxation and just the overall general feeling of health in the horse. I mean, sometimes you go and they say, oh, I don't know, he just kind of feels off, right? So I do a massage, but then also incorporated the MLD into it, and it just made a huge difference. So that's how I started. She was at the NEBCAM conference and just kept going.
Well, very good, and welcome for that input. All right, Tracy. So, what brought you to heal on the lymphatic therapy? What was your interest in it?
I think, as you know, I met Mayu, my horse that passed away last year, which we'll talk about in the owner series. But I
You can
was
talk about it here too, because
okay.
we'll have a question for you to answer that.
I was so desperate to help her. She had chronic progressive lymphedema, which I had never dealt with. And she came from a kill pen, and her leg was quite large. And Lola Michelin, who runs the Northwest School of Animal Massage up in Washington State, said, you have to talk to Teresa Mueller because she'll be able to give you some tools. Maybe you take a class. So I reached out to Teresa, and she was invaluable in helping Mayu and myself. We kept her pretty healthy for 2 years, and then she had a little setback and her heart gave out. So probably related to the lymphatic issues that were chronic for most of her life. And she'd given birth to quite a few babies. So I just really wanted to learn more. And then I got hooked by it because it was like, oh, the light bulb started to go off about other horses in my practice that I would notice odd swellings or things like that. And I didn't really know how to help them. Massage can help a little bit, but nothing can do what MLD can do when you have congestion in the lymphatic system. So I was really drawn to being able to help more horses and help people understand how the lymphatic system is overlooked by most professionals, unless they have had a personal experience with a horse that you see that you can't help. And so I was very grateful to give her a little bit of comfort during her life and time with me.
And I was honored to be participating in that. It
Mhm.
was hard, even though, you know, Mayu wasn't my horse, but I take it personally because you put every ounce of energy and heart into making these CPL horses and the ones with cellulitis. You want to see them make it, and any ounce of any way they get better is always reassuring. I know there are times that we're going to have to let them go, but it's the journey. It's what we see. It's how they change. They get hope where they a lot of these horses never had, especially Maya. She was highly neglected and abused.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So that was obvious. So Trish, so what brought you to heel and the equine lymphatic therapy?
For several years, I've been looking for some place, somebody to talk to me about the lymphatic system of the horse. And I just had an instinct intuitively that this was something I really would benefit from learning about and into greater depth. And I just couldn't find anybody who could give me any answers. And so I put it out to the universe, and all of a sudden, there you were on Facebook on my page. How you got there, I don't know, but I'm grateful. And I have been working for about 20 years, working with horses and doing what I can to assist them in feeling better. And I had a horse that had started not sweating, as that was a client horse, and I figured, well, this is as good a place to start as any. So I contacted you, and you got right back to me, and the next day we were doing a class over Zoom, and I've been using it ever since in all sorts of ways. And recently my vet has stopped taking care of large animals, and we are now officially in a equine but a large animal vet desert. We don't have any vets readily
Oh no.
accessible, and unless they come from an hour and a half away. So most don't want to do that. And so I am not panicking, because with the lymphatic work that I have learned through you and continue learning, it helps the immune system. It helps anytime I have a horse who is injured, I will do a lymphatic grooming technique flow. And it just makes healing almost happen 5 or 6 times more efficiently and faster. It Everything that I've ever used it for has assisted a horse so greatly. I If nobody learns anything else of how to take care of their horse, this is something they ought to learn how to do.
Oh, thank you. Lori, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Lori. So I'm going to give a little brief overview of Lori. She just joined the call. She's one of our equine lymphatic therapists out in Comfort, Texas. And she's been on an amazing journey. She's taught me so much because she's out there every week. And then she'll tell me, Teresa got a problem with this horse, if it's Cushing's or it's metabolic syndrome or this or that. And we work through it. And she has brought so much to the table because my niche is really small. It's CPL and cellulitis, where the lymphatic system is just not CPL and laminitis. It encompasses the whole body and how it impacts common equine disorders. So she's been a real godsend. So, um, Lori, what brought you to heal on the lymphatic therapy? What's your interest in it?
Well, to be honest, I had tried everything else,
Hmm.
right? I mean, and we all have come to this because we have a horse or we love horses or we've seen horses that we've tried to help, but we're missing something, right?
Mhm.
So MLD turned out to be, oh, it just really, and I say this lovingly, it opened up a Pandora's box.
Yes, I would agree with that.
It does. After the
Mhm.
I mean, yeah. So, and also these metabolic horses that we're being told are metabolic, they're lymphatic. Um, so my horse Tuffy was my teacher and still is. And I have done so much, but I think the lymphatic drainage has just opened a door where I could not have gone unless I have done that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. Okay, does
I mean,
anybody? Yeah.
you think about like I think about if someone had heard me who didn't know me and I was telling people what happened or the journey with my tough horse, they think I was kind of a crazy one of those people. I couldn't make this stuff up.
No, you
I'll
can't.
never be able to make this stuff up. And when I did the MLD, and you know this, Teresa, but I don't know if you all do. He had a mast cell come up the next day after I cleared the inguinals and I did the MLD. And that is no joke. 7% of horses in the United States ever have that. So I knew something was bothering him. It's just one of those things that um, when you start doing this, you just find out so much more about your horse and about what's really going on.
And you know what? I think I'm going to throw this out to all the people out there. I think that you hit the nail on the head, Lori, because there are so many practitioners who don't even recognize what lymphatic congestion is. And I'm talking vets, farriers, chiropractors. It goes the whole thing. It goes the whole nine yards. So yeah, we opened Pandora's box in a lot of different ways, but I'm going to say in a good way because
Right.
this is
Mhm, for
long
sure.
overdue. And I think the most important thing that we as practitioners, we need to empower the horse owner. And she just said it. You know, now the one vet left and now she's doing small animals, whatever she's doing. And there's so many people, then there is a crisis in the veterinary uh area where they don't have enough vets coming out. And those are
Mhm.
in rural areas like where you live, they're not coming out for a little swollen leg or a swollen sheath. You can forget about it. They're it's just economics and time. There's only so many hours in a day. So you got to do triage, you got to figure out what's the priority, and a lot of things just get dropped. And it's just the way it is. So hopefully maybe we can pick up the ball. Does anyone out there on the call have any questions for them or any comments? Or what your experience is before we go to the next question.
Yeah, Teresa, I wanted to ask Lori, what did she say the horse came up with after she did the drainage?
Oh, um, a mast cell, M-A-S-T cell.
Uh-huh.
It
It's in
looked
the
like
connective tissue.
a protrusion, and it was on the left adductor around the inguinals in that left hip. And it came up like a finger protruding out, but it was from inside.
Mm.
And when we had it biopsied, that's what came up, but we had to get it surgically removed. I was going to do the
Wow.
holistic thing, but I was like, I did muscle testing and it was no bueno. So I did the surgical way.
And how is he now?
He is good. Of course, he's my teaching horse, so he continues to teach me. Um, so I still feel like I was missing something, right? Um, so he has kidney stones.
Mm.
And when I was doing MLD on the other day, we had a great session, but he started dripping like 30 minutes after our session. And I thought, well, damn. So yeah, but
You're talking dripping
uh,
urine.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So had the vet out because I was like, that was not something to mess with. But I will say, I used something that was called Royal, and I'm murdering. I do not know how to say this correctly, especially Tracy. I don't know. So don't tell me the right way because I know you know. It's called Royal Chonka Piadra.
Yes, Concapedra.
Okay, thank you. See, I knew I was butchering it.
I use it all the time.
But you know what I was saying.
I know
But
what it
I,
is.
but I tell you what, it has been awesome.
It is awesome stuff.
Yeah, really awesome. So, it's a continual learning experience with me. I never quit learning.
Well, let me tell you what Concapedra is.
Okay.
Concapedra, it means stone breaker in
Uh-huh.
Spanish. And
Uh-huh.
what it does, if you've got kidney stones, I'm talking about humans and dogs. I never use it on a horse, but I've used it on the dogs. And if you have gallstones, okay. So, a lot of it's very, very painful. Concapedra goes in there and breaks up the stones, and then it lets it pass without going through the hospital, getting shocked, and all this other kind of thing. And you can use it proactively. You can take it for a month. I did when I was in my cancer journey, I did a liver cleanse every 6 weeks. And every 6 weeks, took it for a month to clear out the stones, to break up the stones before you do the liver cleanse, because you don't want those stones going through the gallbladder and everything else and causing havoc infection. So I use it. I'm very familiar with it. I use it all the time. It's in the house
Mhm. Good.
always. That, and let
Good.
me tell you, runs you folks $30. If you got
Yeah.
gallstones, if you have kidney stones, you can go to the rainforest and get yourself a bottle of Concapedra. So
And
that
is
is wonderful
Tonka,
stuff.
Pidge- Tonka. That's
It's
really how you
C
pronounce
H,
it?
it's C
Yeah.
H A N D A, Kedra,
Okay.
Piederda.
Well, I tell you, it's been a lifesaver and I will never be without it.
Mm.
I agree with you. If
Yeah.
anybody has it. Anything else? Any other questions before we go to the next round?
I have a quick question. I think it was something you said, Teresa, about vets, but are they, I feel like this is very new to me, the whole lymphatic system and massage and everything. But is this something that for the therapist, when you're working with a horse and an owner and the vet, are they receptive to you? Are they learning from you, or do they already know a lot of this? How
I'm
does
going to
that
turn it over to the folks out there in the field. You tell me,
Well,
whoever wants to go.
that's how most
No.
people do. Yeah, they don't know.
Yeah. They look at me like I'm from Mars,
Mhm.
but I will say, um, some of them are pretty interested because a lot of the horses I've worked on, and I'm sure Tracy, you guys know and understand this, those vets or those trainers start to see a difference in their horse and go,
Mhm.
what'd you do? And they want to know now. And I'm, and that's good. That's really good. So at least they're asking, which is wonderful, and they want to see it. They want to learn. They want to know about it. That's the best thing I could ever want.
And I'll attest to that. And, it was interesting when Tom colicked back in June. The vet came, this particular vet came twice. And on the day that we put him down, she came. And I did the see, touch, and assess method. I was brokenhearted because I knew his body. I knew where the congestion, what his body was normal like before he colicked. And then I went to the front legs, and the legs were filling up. The congestion was going from the rear to the front. And I said, this isn't good. I got to let him go. And she just looked at me. She was like, she didn't know what to say. I said, this horse is lymphatically congested and it's not getting better. And here's why. Boom, boom, boom. But she didn't ask me any more questions. She just like stood back. But it was a very emotional time too. When you
Mhm.
getting to make that ultimate decision to put your horse down. But that was critical. And I'm glad she was there to witness it. You know what I mean? Because maybe I stimulated something in her. But she never came back and asked me. But I said he's congested. It's moving from the rear to the front, and it is. And his front legs were always fabulous. We had great lymphatic congestion, movement in his front legs. But now they were getting to the point they were resistant, but they were getting very close to being restricted. So I knew we were. It was a matter of hours or a day before things exploded. So, but she just looked at me like I had five heads. So
Yeah.
Laura, you could attend to that. Tracy, did you have any experience you want to share?
Yes. Um, about 2 years ago, I was starting to work with a horse that was a Connemara. And what I found interesting was he had horrible lymphatic stagnation, and he ended up, I think it was a mast cell tumor, but they didn't identify it as that on his sheath, near his sheath in the same area. So anyway, the bottom line is he went to New Bolton, he was at Cornell, he went to a bunch of different sports medicine specialists on the East Coast, and all inconclusive. They ran every test under the sun, muscle biopsies, and we
Mm.
and she came back and she said, this is the sad part, is they didn't even talk about the lymphatic system. His sheath was very swollen. He was very uncomfortable internally. They looked like bulges on his abdominal, in the
Mm.
abdominal areas, all over his ventral and lateral abdominals. I said, well, what's the worst that can happen? If you'll trust me, let's try some MLD. And I just got a really beautiful text from her as he's part of my case study that I was doing for a different technique, because I was so blown away by she's riding him again. He's
Mhm.
rideable. There's no inflammation except a little bit in the sheath, but I believe that there's been some damage done to his lymphatic system
Oh, I
because
believe that.
it went so long and was so congested long term. But he's way more heat tolerant. I mean, there's just the list goes on of how this horse is more comfortable, and he's only 9. So this started when he was 7. So you think about all these things, and no tests showed anything because they're not looking at the lymphatic system, which is
Yeah.
very sad to me because I don't know what that cost her. I mean, not that it's about money, but to have all that done and find the words inconclusive on the bottom of your report is very disheartening.
Yeah.
I will tell you the average, so Tracy, would be part of the research. Here's what comes in from the field. I do not solicit people. People come to me and they answer the survey. I just collect the data. Okay. Within three years, it's up to 10,000. And within 5 years, it's close to $15,000 they pay.
Yeah, per
That
horse.
is, that's ballpark. So
Mhm.
she's in the neighborhood, I bet you 15 grand.
Plus,
Yeah.
plus she
Easy.
went, plus she went to Cornell.
Hmm.
You know, she
And
took
she,
her to
yeah,
Cornell.
yeah, yeah. So, this is where that's why in my in what is the equine lymphatic market. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, you could go on YouTube and I gave you all the stats. $828 million a year. That is obnoxious. That we calculated, and that was only based on 8% of the population that we think that has chronic progressive lymphedema and cellulitis. So that doesn't include all the other things that Tracy found, Trish, Lorna, Tracy, all of it. And it's just unbelievable. All right. So any other questions? All right. Now I'm going to go back to Lorna. What changed in the way you see the horse?
So it instead of massage also tries to have you look at the whole horse, but changing how you understand the systems that interact, and to look more specifically at the lymph system. You know, when you start working on a horse, whether they have a sore muscle or whatever, that's also affecting, or the lymph system has affected that already. I mean, because as they're stiffening up, the lymph doesn't move as much, and so then you start getting the swelling and stuff. And so so it changes how how you look at the whole, and looking at how the systems interact with each other, because they all influence each other.
Absolutely. Tracy, any comments on that?
It radically changed my practice, I think, in ways that I started with it for Mayu and thinking I just want her to have relief. And then I can't see any horse the same way. And Teresa and I had started noticing some look like hair patterns. I think, Teresa, you said, how did you get that grooming pattern in their hair? And I said,
that was like so.
I was like, I didn't do anything. We both started laughing. And it was when the lymph channels were so stagnant. And when she had a flare of the CPL, we'd see this like wave pattern, which was following the lymphatic channels. And you can't groom it out. It doesn't change unless you do MLD or some kind of herbal detox. And I started seeing it on so many horses that I was like, oh my goodness, I guess I must have seen it before, but it's kind of like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I started to understand, like, then you start to look at health histories of these horses and chronic colics, metabolic things that were unexplainable and not responsive with medication. So I think for me, it makes me ask way more questions and really want to understand, and like, it won't be the same protocol for every horse, as far as like, it may not be just MLD, it may be MLD and herbs, but we have to start looking at that whole picture as and I'm encouraging my guardian, the owners, the guardians, to like start asking more questions and to really share what we find with their veterinarian, because otherwise we're not going to get anywhere with anybody looking at this, I don't think. So I'm being really vocal about that part of it. And so far, everybody's been very receptive, I think, as far as the owners and the veterinarians are like, we don't know about that. Like, we don't, not discussed in our circles in many ways. And I'm not criticizing the veterinary community, because like, they're very overworked and
they're not taught it. You're not going to do something if it's not taught. And I think where the rubber hits the road is they never understood it. So nobody's going to talk about something they don't understand. There's not going to happen.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I think the last piece for me is that I found out I don't remember what year I found this out, that Colorado is like the #2 colic state in the nation. And it got me wondering why. And then you start to say, okay, why is that happening? And then when I go to my horse practice, I look at all the horses in my practice and see all the lymphatic stagnation. It's no wonder the deep visceral stagnation, could that be contributing? And I wonder why nobody's really looking at that. So again, it brings up all these questions for me of like, what's my role and how can I help spread the word, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't have the answer yet, but it just, hopefully webinars like this, where everybody's talking about it, where we're not pointing fingers, we're just being curious and trying to help as many horses as possible. That's definitely my goal.
Okay. Lori.
Well, I think I've seen so many metabolic or horses, which to me, there's a huge lymphatic issue there. Um, I've seen lots of differences working on so-called metabolic horses, that they really change after MLD. And I think it's so fascinating to me because I think I see almost every horse as lymphatic, unless otherwise proven not. I mean, it's just, I don't think there's a horse that's probably not at least a little bit. Um, so I think it is such a wonderful tool, um, to learn about this horse that I don't know or I'm working on or whatever. And I really think the owners are fascinated. They seem very receptive. Like I've heard about manual lymphatic drainage for people and breast cancer. That's what I get. Um, but now, because that's what they know. And so, um, the inquisitive part about people are coming out, which I think is lovely. I love that.
That's good. All right. Trish.
Well, one of the first things that I noticed right after you and I had our class last summer was I went through my barn and worked with all my horses. And the first week I did it with the grooming technique with them every other day. At that time, I had 6 horses. And I started just watching how they changed. And within a week, all of them had either hoof abscesses or gravels in multiple feet. My horses are barefoot. I don't normally have much in the way of abscesses or anything. So that told me a whole lot. It's like, okay, it's like you were saying about kidney stones and things like that. It's just another form of something that doesn't belong getting moved.
Mhm.
And that just blew me away. Uh, I'm very fortunate in that I don't have a lot of metabolic horses that I work with. Uh, the vets that I do work with all think that this is fantastic. They're thrilled that I am learning about the equine lymphatic system. And they've all said, hey, keep us in the loop of what your knowledge is. And I give them all Teresa's phone number and website. And they said, because we need people who know this, because it is not something that we are taught. We don't know anywhere near enough about this.
Mhm.
So it's kind of fun, odd word, but that's what came out, to be on the cutting edge of this way of being able to help our horses. Uh, and as I mentioned, it helps with their digestion, it helps with foot issues, it helps with all immune systems. And I will work with horses and say, they didn't appear to be lymphatic issues. And all of a sudden, I can literally watch their legs getting tighter and tighter and tighter, where I already thought that they were pretty tight legs. And the whole thing changed. Their whole demeanor changes. Everything changes about them. And it's just fascinating to me to watch how this happens. And it is one of the things that I do to kind of find out what else is going on in the horse, especially with a horse I've not worked with before, to find out where they are, what they're feeling, what part of them is truly more the cause of their ailment rather than a symptom of. It's a wonderful tool to have to reduce symptoms that are sort of miscellaneous and nobody can figure out what is wrong with the horse, why that body is not functioning the way it ought to.
Okay. Thank you for that input. And we're all on a journey. And that's why I love hearing from everybody from the field, because you're teaching me, because there's no way you can know it, because until it happens, you just don't know how they're going to react. And it's been quite It's been quite eye-opening. So, does anyone out there have any questions for these ladies on what changed in the way you see the horse? Does anyone want to comment on that?
I have a question regarding, you're talking about how the vets aren't trained about the lymphatic system in vet school. Do the vet schools in the UK or in Europe train about the lymphatic system?
In the UK, no. I get them all the time. The one place is in Germany. I believe it or not, I do get a lot from Belgium, and I don't know why because they're so close to Germany. But um, I'll tell you a really quick story. I got this lady at the time was 28 years old. She just got out of vet school. She was an equine surgeon. She was Turkish, and she went home to Turkey. And somebody called her about a horse, and the horse had CPL and his name was Atlas. What a sweetheart. So she contacted me. She goes, I just got out of vet school. Nobody ever told me about this. I don't know what to do. She had to leave. She came to the United States. And the reason why she came is at the time, back in, was it 2018, ISIS was in Turkey and there was a lot of political upheaval over there. And being a woman with education, I don't know if she was a Muslim or not, but that was not something where she felt safe to say. She goes, Teresa, I have to leave. And that's all she said. I have to get out of the country. So she found a kind lady who took this off. I never knew what happened to him. But there is an issue and it's across the board because I've gotten calls from Ghana, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Pakistan. These are not common places. And yet, and we're still behind the eight ball one, but did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
You were starting to talk about the schools in Germany. Do they?
There's only one school in Germany. That's Hanover University. That's where I went to school, and it's part of their vet program there, and it's also part of their equine physical therapist program that they take a course in equine lymphatics, and that's the course that I went to. It was 4 days. It was totally intense and not a word of English. And I don't speak German and I do not read
Oh.
German.
So how did you do it?
Well, I was already an equine lymphatic therapist at the time. So the
Oh.
slides that he was presenting and whatever, I was very familiar with it. But, um, but still, we had, vets on either side of us who spoke English. There was two other people, myself and my husband, and a lady named Judy from the UK, and we had to sit in the back of the bus. I mean, on top of the bleachers against the wall. So if we didn't understand something, we would ask the vet, and then she would translate it to us to English. That's how we did the course.
Interesting.
Yeah. So and I was um, granted permission to come. You just don't go there. You need to get permission to come to take that class. So I did get it. Anything else?
I wanted to say something about working with veterinarians. Um,
This is Jeannie. This is Jeannie.
yeah.
She's got a horse named Skibo.
So, yeah, he's a very juicy horse. Anyway, um, the vets know that it's the lymphatics, but they don't know what to do. It's not that they don't know the system. It's like when something happens, they'll either give you, like, oh, it's an infection and they give you antibiotics. And then afterwards, it's still a little swollen and, maybe you get another, if it's congested, you may get another symptom. It's just that they don't know what to do if it's a lymphatic issue. That's what that's what I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Jeannie's going to be on next week. She's going to be on the horse owners panel discussion, talking about Skibo and her experience. So she'll be able to add a lot of good value there. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, Lorna, can you share one horse that made you realize this work was different?
Just one?
Well, there's many, but I mean,
There's
give
many.
one in particular.
There's many. I'd say I had a client, I've worked on her horse quite a bit, just massaging, and she called me up one day, kind of in a panic. We had a windy day in Washington, and she thinks that something maybe blew up into her nose, but she had a swollen on the right side of her nostril, and then just thick yellow mucus draining out. She called the vet, and the vet said, probably sounds like some type of infection. She'd have to come out. My friend didn't have a trailer, couldn't trailer to the vet, but the vet said it would probably be at least $1,000 just to get out and, start treatment on it. And so she said, well, I don't have that kind of money. She works a lot with essential oils and colloidal silver. So she started doing some of that. Then she called me because she knew that I had done the MLD. And so I came out there and started doing the head sequence on the horse. And at first, just the horse was very uncomfortable. Didn't really want me to touch her too much, but worked on her. And all of a sudden, she started blowing her nose. And she blew all the stuff out. And on the right side, I had started on the left side, and it affected the right side. And so she started blowing. And I came back and did several more sessions. And within 2 weeks, she was completely cleared up. So, so I guess the interesting thing was a foreign object caused that reaction in the body. And all the body knew how to do was to create all this mucus in trying to protect it, around this foreign invader. But then it got stuck. It wasn't coming out. And so opening up those channels helped that horse blow out all the stuff. And she was fine. It was just amazing to watch how the drain, just that gentle pressure, stretching, opening up those channels, and it just flows out. So that was an experience that really helped me understand the impact that you can have on a horse's health by doing the MLD.
Okay, thank you. Trish, you want to tell us about the horse that couldn't be catched? Caught, I should say.
Good old Ballast. Yeah, Ballast was a former racehorse. I got him when he was almost 10 years old, and he had been a turf horse. He won about $600,000, and he was not an easy boy. And he preferred to live outside, which was fine. And he'd go through times when sometimes I could catch him, and sometimes I couldn't. And there was no bribing him. There was no way. I went through all the usual ways of trying to catch him, and basically either he let you catch him or he didn't. It was that simple. And after we started working with him with the grooming technique, I started being able to catch him. So much so that he would walk up to me and say, "Hi, Mom, how you doing? You want to ride me today? Do you want to groom me? How about doing some of this nice massage work that you do? How about doing some of it?" And it worked out really well, because one day I came into the barn and they'd been out all night. My horses live out in a herd. And he had a hock that was the size of a football. And he came and showed me his leg, and I was able to work with him. I did a complete grooming session on both sides. I did a compression bandage just to try to limit his movement and give him some support. And 3 times a day, I did the grooming technique with him, with emphasis at the hock. and that hind leg. In 4 days, it was completely gone. The first day, it was cut down by half. I have no idea what happened to him. I don't know why it was that way. The good news is it never came down his leg, so it just dissipated out of his hock, where traditionally, if you have the hock swollen, it just falls down the leg. Did not have any of that. And the second day, he was no longer lame on it. It just was ugly. So he was getting more motion. And the fourth day, it was totally gone, and he was 100% sound, never had another problem.
That's amazing.
So
how about you,
it's
Tracy? Oh, I'm sorry. You want to say anything else, Trish? Tracy.
I think I talked about Danny a little bit. I think I was working in a dressage barn, and a horse that I was working with for the first time, I had a kind of an audience, and I get nervous when there's like trainers and owners and friends of owners, and then another practitioner who had asked me to come support her in this work. And I think what I found interesting about it was that the horse had, the reason I was there is because the horse wasn't going to the right as well, and would refuse to turn right, just going around the indoor. And as I looking at this gelding, his throat latch was completely like stocked up. The lymph glands were sticking below the mandible by like an inch, like it was very swollen. His sheath was swollen. And I said, oh gosh, I think we'll do MLD. And they all kind of looked at me and said, that's not really what we brought you here for, but okay, we trust you, just go ahead. So as I'm working, I wasn't paying attention. I was just doing the work and teaching a little bit to the other practitioner, who I think is, she's a Masterson person, so has a good knowledge base. And by the time we finished, all the lymph glands had shrunk, and there was no more swelling in the throat latch, in the between the mandibles. And so, for me, and the sheath had started to go down. And they said, "Do you think this could be why he colics every day after he eats?" And I thought, what? That was left out of the equation, right? Because I'm being brought in to do craniosacral therapy or massage. And I was so thrilled. I never had to see him again. Like, they kind of ran with the lymphatic work themselves, but and did the technique. But I was so thrilled that I learned so much from him, because sometimes you don't know why you're being called out, if you're being called out for something else. So MLD was the thing that turned it around for him.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was uncorrect. I bet he must have urinated and urinated. Did anybody monitor that? Probably not, right?
I don't think so. I think that it hadn't really even occurred to them that there could be a problem with
Probably.
lymphatics,
Yeah.
and that the sweat, they just said, oh, this is a common thing. I'm sure the other practitioners hear this all the time. But well, he's always that way. He's always stocked up in the throat latch and in the sheath, and that, that's the way it is. But he wasn't comfortable turning, because he couldn't turn with all that. There's no way the head
The
could
pressure
turn.
in there.
There's too much pressure, and it was uncomfortable for him. And he decided, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't want to. It hurts. But they were so receptive, so I was thrilled about that. I didn't get to see him again, but that's probably a good thing, because they're addressing it differently.
Oh, well, thank you. That's really heartwarming there. Lori, tell us anything special on your journey, that one horse in particular that stuck out for you that you want to share with somebody? We don't hear you. You need to unmute.
There we go. I think I've talked about my bay horse quite a bit. And he still continues to need it and amaze me. I guess one of my questions, however, is because we didn't find this till later in life. And I'm sure there's been quite a bit of damage. So because of the longevity and how long this has been, my question is to any of you. I know, Tracy, you mentioned the herbs. And I would like to get into more and understand more nutritionally what I can do to support him and other horses I treat with herbs with the lymph system.
Lori, are you asking me about herbs?
Yes.
Okay.
Or anyone, but
Okay.
you had talked about it. So I wanted to, and this may not be the platform in which to do this, but it would be really cool sometime to have the same Zoom meeting and it be about herbs. Okay. I'm really fascinated and I don't know near enough about them. I know you do. So I would like to offer more support to the horse.
I muted myself because I have a puppy who's decided to bark. I'm so sorry, everyone.
It's okay.
I would love to have that conversation. I think, I know we're getting down to the wire with the
Yeah.
on the webinar. I'm happy to do a combo webinar with Teresa about herbs and supporting the lymphatic system because I do
I would
think
love that. That'd be wonderful. We
That
could
would
do
be
it.
just awesome.
I'm going to put that on the list, Tracy.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a webinar on herbs and the lymphatic.
great. Thank
All
you.
right. All right, we're going to come down to the wire. As she said, we got one more question here. Does anybody have any comments before we go to the last question, folks? Okay, here's the last question. What would you say to someone who's curious or unsure whether this is for them? Lorna.
It's great to be curious. You need to be curious. Otherwise, you just kind of shrivel up and don't move forward. This is something that is, like was said before, is kind of on the cutting edge. One thing that surprised me the most is how little people know about the lymphatic system or how it affects the horse. Even people, I've had some owners, I didn't, what's the lymphatic system? They didn't even know they had one. So for practitioners that really want to make a difference in this area and expand how you can treat the horse holistically, this is a great thing to move forward with. Absolutely.
Trish.
I agree with everything that Lorna said, and can't hard to beat that. That somebody has an inkling of an idea that this might be something that they want to learn more about. Yes, by all means, I give them every bit of tidbit of information that you've taught me and all of your information, and say this is something that will never hurt, but will always help.
For the most part, you're right. All right, Tracy.
I was surprised at like it is there's a lot of information there, and Teresa's classes have been really very enlightening as far as the science behind it, but the actual practical application is pretty easy to learn, I think, as long as you can be really curious, like Lorna was saying, and I agree with both Trish and Lorna about what they're saying. It's, I think, being able to teach someone a technique like the grooming technique to give, I think owners are looking, they just want to help their horse. So it's like, what do? I feel so helpless or hopeless because nobody really has any options for me. What if I learn the grooming technique? Can I direct them to Teresa for that? They don't maybe want to learn the whole MLD.
They don't need that.
They don't need that. But then there's the practitioners who are learning it who can help with that and support them. So we can work together. It's a tribe. And the more we do this work, I feel like the more my vets, definitely I work with a lot of veterinarians. I have a lot of horses at my house. And they're receptive to it. It's just like we were saying, they don't really know what to do about it because it's not, they know about the lymphatic system, but they don't know what to do to help with CPL or just general edema stocking up in parts of the body. So I feel like our tribe can work together and really educate and give tools to all these guardians who, like I said, really they just want their horses to feel better.
Mhm.
They don't really have a means to do
Right.
that. So I really am grateful for the technique being brought out into the world more. Thank you, Teresa, for that. To all the practitioners here who are doing such beautiful work in the world. It's very grateful.
Oh, they're doing phenomenal work. And Lori, what do you want to tell the people that are on the phone, that are on the webinar?
Mhm.
But you think
Never
it's for
give
the
up. Never give up. Always be curious. There's more to learn. Every time I do this, I learn something new.
absolutely.
Every single horse, every single time.
I agree with you 100%. And that's why I say we're writing the chapter as we go because we are creating the legacy because we don't even fully understand what our capability is.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, no, not at all. Well, I want to thank, does anybody have any comments out there on the webinar? Anyone say anything or comment?
I have a question. This was super helpful. My question is, so I have a mare named Penny. She never stocks up. She's not prone to swelling, anything like that. But last summer, she was diagnosed with kissing spine spondylosis and osteoarthritis in the right side of her neck. Um, so what I've come to learn over the last year is that she's clearly much more arthritic over the winter. She's doing great this summer, but I'm just trying to get ahead of this next winter. Is this something like, do you work on horses like this, or is it typically just CPL horses? I'm just curious your
Well,
experience with
that's
this
very
now.
interesting because osteoarthritis is a lymphatic issue.
Okay.
And the reason it's lymphatic because it's in the joints and the cartilage that you're dealing with. And it's no different than it is for humans. I see it all the time in the human practice. You have somebody comes in and say, "Oh, my elbow, I got arthritis in my elbow or my finger, whatever it is." And what 9 times out of 10, what I see is there's been an injury there that was never addressed, a soft tissue injury. So the lymphatic system got congested in that joint and they wasn't moving. So calcium builds up, wears down the joint. That's why I'm saying it's a lymphatic issue. So getting the grooming technique, getting that going is important because now you're eliminating all the waste. It's coming out of the body. And that's and last summer I worked on a horse named Hercules. He was a local and he had CPL and he had a suspensory. And when the owner did the grooming technique, he urinated and she collected it, and it was all this white crystals. It turned out the right white crystals was calcium, and all that calcium causes pain in the muscles. And so what we did was we actually were able through the MLD and the grooming technique was to loosen it up to get it out of the system. And she did choose to euthanize him. Her mind pretty much was made up when I went out to see the horse. She says, I just want to give it a try and see what it can do. I think it's just a little too late for Hercules, but it was an amazing process to see. So I hope that answers your question because if you had the opportunity to collect the urine, you'd want to see if there's white crystals in there after doing MLD
Okay.
or the grooming technique, because now you let it all out and you think of all the waste that just got out of the joints.
Yeah. Really helpful. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, when I think Julian mentioned the how she would be more arthritic in the winter. I like to do the grooming technique when like between when the seasons change and um when the weather changes. Like, it'll be, 80s and all of a sudden it's like 5 days of 100 over 100. So, now we have our phones that, give us the temperature. I like to do the grooming technique before the big, like the change of weather. So,
Yes, horses are very prone to that.
yeah, I like to do it as a preventative. So,
And how does he respond? How does Skibo respond?
oh, well, what do you mean by respond? Like, what is
I
how
mean, does he feel better? Do you
Well, he
see
likes the
less?
grooming technique, but I'm doing it so I don't see any. I don't have
Right.
a a symptom from the, you know, the weather change.
Well, the barometric pressure is huge for the horses.
Mhm.
Horses, and you feel it yourself as you age. You may feel it in a knee or an elbow when the barometric pressure changes. And when the barometric pressure changes, it changes pressure in the horse, fluid pressure. So when that fluid pressure builds up, that's where that comes in. So watching the barometric pressure, you become a weather nut, especially those horses with CPL and cellulitis. If you start tracking it, you could see something very, very interesting, especially even with the moon, the new moon and the full moon. As the moon wanes and waxes, whatever it does, it impacts the horses because it's all water and it impacts the tides. So why wouldn't it impact us? So I would say definitely weather is huge. Now, horses that are exposed to all these fires, they're breathing in those toxins. They can't get into air conditioning. So this would be a really great tool for, I think, that horses that may, especially the senior ones, who may have some compromised systems due to their aging, could benefit for something like this, especially in the wildfires, because their breathing's impacted. That means if their breathing impacted, the heart's going to be impacted. Everything just goes downstream.
We can't put a mask on them in,
No,
in 95.
good luck.
But there's probably a lot of herbs that would help facilitate that, right?
Yeah, I would imagine. No, I'll talk to Tracy and we could put a webinar on herbs for sure. So, all right, we're at 8:42. I'm going to close this up and I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart. Does anyone have any other questions? Any
Yes,
comments from the field?
yeah, I'm curious about something.
Ask.
So you said when you got into this and you went to Germany, what were you doing prior to that? I mean, where were you learning this prior to going to Germany?
Well, I basically is I left corporate. We did it. There was a downsizing, and I got downsized, and I said I'm because there was so much outsourcing at the time. I said I got to work with my hands because I don't want to lose a job because of technology because they're not going to replace this. So I went into massage school. And that's how I did it. I decided I got laid off December 15th and January 17th. I was sitting in massage school. I never had a massage. I don't even know I was there. So my husband says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know. I just want to work with my hands. I just got to do something and this is it. And they're paying for the school. I'm going." And we had a horse named that we had a horse named the Captain, and he came down with intermittent lymphangitis 10 years before I went into massage school. And because I was in corporate at the time, I couldn't even spell the word lymph. I'm not making this up. I didn't know what lymphangitis was. How do you spell that thing? And we didn't have access to the internet then. Everything was in a book, if you went to the library. I mean, nobody goes to the library more to look up all those articles that we used to do as kids. But my point here is that's how I got involved. And when I went to massage school, we talked about the lymphatic system, and then everything clicked.
Yeah.
Then everything went, and that's how I ended up. And then I went looking for schools here. There were none. And the only place in the world was Germany and Hanover, Germany. And here's the miracle in it, Lori. I called Germany, and Professor von Rottenfeld very rarely answered his phone. He was a professor. He don't answer phones. Okay. And he has all these vet students and physiotherapists. Everybody does everything for him. Okay. He answered the phone. I didn't even know who the man was. And I told him I wanted to take this class. And he said to me, "How are you going to get here?" I said, "What do you mean, how am I going to get there?" I thought it was some sort of a joke. And I said, "I'm going to take Lufthansa." Why? I wasn't, that's what I told him. He goes, "Well, it's all in German. Do you speak German? No. Can you read German? No." I said, "I'll figure it out." And you know what he said to me? "You can come." And that's how I got in. And he doesn't take everybody. He, I don't know. I told you it was divine intervention. It was the best thing I ever did. My husband told me I was crazy. I said, no, we're going to Germany. And a year later, we were sitting in that class. That's it. Rest is history. And he gave me written permission to use anything I want in his book. Anything. I have written permission. So that's the story. I'm sticking to it. All right. I'm going to close out. Somebody had a chat. Let me see somebody had here, and we're going to close it.
I have one quick question.
Okay, T, go.
Did you get the photos of the mullein?
I did.
Okay, because that's something that I heard some of these other ladies asking about respiratory herbs that would help with respiratory issues, you know, with the wildfires and so forth. That is one that absolutely will. So I don't know if you want to, want to post any of those photos or anything. And I'm willing to mail seed to anybody that has a place to grow it where the seed will not fall from the plant, and these plants can be 8 feet tall, where an animal will eat it. Because the seed itself is toxic, but the leaves are the part that you use for the tea for the healing.
Okay, well, you know what? I have that email that you sent me. I did look at it. I think I have some in my yard, and I Googled northern New Jersey, and they said it's grown here. So I got to go look for it.
Yes.
I think I got it in my yard. What I will do, I'll make a commitment. Everybody on this call, I will send out that email. Make sure I have your email address. I think you signed up on the, I'm going to put it when I send out the recording tomorrow. I'll make sure that we get it
Yeah,
because you want to see
just
it.
copy the photos from it. Don't don't send my
I will.
email all over the
Okay.
country. But I'm willing to, if someone asks you for seed, we collect the seed for ours so that we always have it and we can always grow it because we use it with our herd. And we have 64, I think, right now, and we use it a fair amount of it every winter. Um, and and we use it with people as well as with animals. So I collect the seed. I'm willing to send it to anyone that needs it.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much, T. All right.
You're
For
welcome.
next
Thank
week,
you.
thank you. For next week, we have a really great lineup here. Jeannie's going to be on. She's a horse owner. We're going to have Tracy talking about Mayu. Then we're going to have a lady called named Tia and a story about her horse named Stetson. 19 professionals. She had a whopping vet bill for the last 4 years. She's going to talk about what happened to her. And then we're going to have Kerry Tipton, who had Gracie Ann, who had CPL, and she pulled it from the kill pen and that journey there. So we have, and also Vicky Bird has a horse named um, Manny, and he had cellulitis, and she'll share her journey. So you're going to hear right from the horse's mouth, literally. So on that note, folks, I'm going to close this down. I want to thank everybody profusely. So my homework assignment here is work with Tracy to set up a webinar for herbs, as well as I'm going to send out the pictures to the mullein. All right. So if anyone had any questions, you know where to reach me. Info at healequine.com. You can reach me at 201-874-0914. It's on the website. That's it. So I'm going to have a blessed night, everybody, and thank you all for coming. I know it's late for some people are in bed by 9 o'clock, 9:30. So I don't want to take that away from you. So again, thank you all, and I'm going to close down the call. Good night, everyone. God bless.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.